Buckle up, because today we're talking tuning, specifically with the Maclan DRK. I know this video is going to be a lot of talking. I'm going to try to make it as entertaining as possible for you guys. We're going to look at what I use to tune the ESC, where I get my data from, what I do with that data. We'll make some passes and go over that data as well, and hopefully progress and give you guys an idea of how I go about tuning this ESC. First things first, disclaimer, I am not a professional at this. I know there's guys faster than me out there. This is just my opinion and what I do to try to help some people out. So let's see where we'll start off with this. First things first, we're gonna want a base tune. When you get your Maclan DRK, or if you have one already, there's some base tunes in the Maclan SmartLink app. Or if you're using a PC, there's software that also has the same base tune. I use a tablet with the app just because it's quick and easy and lighter to transport around with me. So we're gonna get that plugged up. We'll launch the app. I want to note that I am a little further along because I did make some test passes with this car already and altered the tuning. But you do want to start with one of those profiles. I feel like that gives you a good base point. So trying to get us set up here so you can see what I'm doing. You can see I have the ESC linked to the tablet now. So for tuning wise, I'm going to come to programming. And at the top, there's a current profile. You can see I have mine edited. I have the name of the car behind it. But there's a couple of test profiles. There's a 4.5 low and high traction and a 3.5 low and high traction, as well as a couple of different ones. You know, you got drag race 1 through something. And all of these are base tunes that you can try out and see what'll help, see what'll work for you. I started with the 3.5 turn low traction when I switched over to the DR10M. The only thing I did before making that first pass with the normal low traction profile, which I believe I mentioned in that video, was came over to the throttle settings and turned down the throttle punch. Now that day I was running about 5 to 7%. You can see now I'm at 9%. We're gonna cover that a little later. I made that first pass and the pass was extremely straight. Didn't feel like the car was moving anywhere. It felt like the car could take more power, so I started going in and put more power. The first place I went, if you've been around this app or this software before, you'll know you come to launch power control. And you can play around with the percentages. You have first stage, second stage, third stage, fourth stage, all the way up to 7 stages in this ESC. It works similar to gears. That's the best way to describe it to you. You can see some of my numbers here. We're gonna change these numbers today, so don't focus on these too much. But what I started doing was saying, okay, well, I could get a little harder on the launch. So I upped the percentage a little bit on the launch. And then I said, okay, well, down track, it can take more. So I bumped up these numbers pretty quickly. You can see where I got mine at now. You can change up the times in the different stages. And we do that by going over the data after a pass. We use the data we get after a pass to see where the car can take more power or where we may need to pull out some power. You know, if you're spinning, you're not accelerating as hard. The car might still go straight if you're spinning, but if you can limit that spin and keep the car accelerating, you'll be better off in the long run. We get all of that information from a couple of things. One way is the data logs in this app, which I want to get to second, because first I want to talk about the GNSS Performance Analyzer that a lot of people use. The GNSS Performance Analyzer, you can see I have mine mounted on the front of the car here. Many people are using this. If you're interested in no prep racing at all, you've probably seen or heard of these already. Works well with an app on the phone. The battery's low on my performance analyzer right now, but that's not an issue because we're not actually gonna be using the performance analyzer today. You can see my last pass I made wasn't that great. We're more worried about some other things. I did want to point out though, one way to get to the data that I'm talking about is to come to the share button up here. This is something that I found out recently on Reddit, I believe, and since I found out about it, I've been using it non-stop. If we come to share, we can click an Excel spreadsheet, open up Excel, and it'll give you a spreadsheet of incremental times throughout your run. the acceleration happening at that time, and also miles per hour. So you can see on this pass, 0.2 seconds into the run, I was at 7 miles an hour. 0.6 seconds into the run, pulling 1.7 Gs, I was already at 22 miles an hour. So I can look at my data here and see how quickly the car is accelerating and match that to my delay of my stages in the Maclan app and see where the car may be lacking in acceleration. This pass, if I remember correctly, I had spun, so I didn't get a full pass, which is why it was only at 260. But these initial incremental speeds, that 7 and 11 and 22 miles an hour in 0.6 seconds, was some of the fastest numbers I've seen. That 2.27 Gs of acceleration was some of the highest acceleration I've seen. After about that 1 second mark, you can see it starts dramatically dropping down, and that's because the car spun and I lost control of the car there and shut the run off. But since I found this has been a crucial tool in my tuning. I'm gonna come back, I have a couple more spreadsheets saved from past runs, and we're gonna talk about these a little more. These work really well, especially when comparing them with the graphs in the Maclan app. To get to those graphs, on the home screen, we'll come to data logging, load data, and load from the ESC. This was my very last pass that day, so it's still in the ESC now and I can show it to you. These graphs show you throttle position, battery voltage, motor RPM, and then ESC and motor temperature. I was also recently informed that the PC version, you can see the actual motor timing going in as well. I may look into that in the future, but I really like There's also an actual graph, but these graphs really don't show you as much of the data as well, in my opinion anyway. The first important thing to do when you get to this table is I want to hit this expand button over here. You can see we have our incremental times on the side here, but when we hit expand, you're able to see more in depth of those times. This first session, which was my last pass, what you're seeing here is the burnout, the little quick burnout I do at the beginning of the run. And then you can see my throttle percentage goes to 0%. This is when I'm staging the car and the car's just sitting at idle. Car's sitting, I'm setting up the camera for you guys, hitting the GNSS Performance Analyzer to log my run, and then boom, right there you can see we're launching at 9.4 seconds. And now I can look at both of these together, the Performance Analyzer as well as the data logging, and see what's happening at what point in the run. So 9.4 seconds I know is at my 0 second mark, so to say. 0.2 seconds would be at 9.6 seconds. So at 9.6 seconds, I was running 7 miles an hour. I was turning 5,900 RPMs. Something I was pointed towards recently was this battery voltage as well. Now, if you look through my run, you don't see my battery voltage drop below 7 volts, which is pretty good. I've always been told since I started running this drag car that we don't want our battery voltage dropping too much in a pass, because then you're not getting enough amperage and you're losing power. Basically, you don't have enough power. But in a pass like this, when we see that battery voltage jump back up, you can see here at 9.6 seconds, it jumped back up to 9.1 volts. What that basically means is the car is unloading. You're not accelerating anymore and the car is kind of settling in. Based on the fact that that voltage jumped up and those RPMs didn't jump up, I know the car wasn't spinning, the car was just settling in. So what that tells me is I can shorten up this first stage. I can shorten it up by likely about 0.05 seconds. So I want to say I was running 0.25 seconds on the first stage. That means I can shorten it to 0.2 seconds. And then jump in that second stage quicker. That'll help the car accelerate faster and stay pulling hard all the way down track. And fourth stage at 90% is very quick. That's where our biggest voltage drop is, but we're still gaining RPMs. And then after that, we're at 100%. And this is when my timing comes in. Now, I know we haven't talked about timing yet. My actual motor timing has stayed stock. I haven't touched it, but the ESC adds timing, or what they also call turbo in. We're gonna go back here to the programming at the advanced timing settings. You can see my turbo position is at 100%, which means The turbo isn't gonna come in until the power is at 100%, till it goes through all of its stages. I have a turbo delay of 0.1 second, which means, just as you would think, 0.1 seconds after the power reaches 100%, then the turbo starts coming in. My turbo is set at 42 degrees right now and an upslew rate at 8.3 degrees per 0.1 seconds. Basically, to dumb that all down and say it just like it is, the ESC is gonna add 8.3 degrees of timing every 0.1 second until it reaches 42 degrees of timing. So now that we've looked over all the data, I know my plan of attack. Today's a new day, so first thing I wanna do is go make another pass today with the car set up exactly the same as it was the last time out and see if anything changes. The car might not even hook right today. It should, but that's only in theory. So we're gonna make a pass exactly set like it is. We're gonna erase this data, reset this, that way the car is ready to go. And if we see the same thing after making this pass, then we'll start making a couple of changes. So that first pass we shut off early, but that should give us some data, mostly just my driving issue, the car shooting to the right, and then I just kind of oversteered it. I can see the initial numbers still looking good. That voltage is still jumping back up in that same exact spot, so I want to bring the power in a little quicker. There was a voltage drop at about the 0.7 second mark there, so I'll look into that and try to make another pass. Rookie mistake there, I forgot to reset the ESC data, so we'll retry that pass. I feel like I could line the car up better anyway and get a better pass. I also smoothed out the jump in between the stages, in between here. So I had to slightly pedal the car a little bit on that one, but that was way better either way. You can see a 241 at 65 miles an hour. So already best ET, best mile an hour out of this car. The voltage is still kind of rising back up again at the end of the first stage. So I'm gonna actually bump that stage up a bit. Same thing right when the fourth stage comes in. So I'm gonna shorten that third stage a bit. Pretty consistent after 100%. We're looking at a pretty consistent voltage and increase in RPMs after 100%. So I'm gonna bump up that turbo just by a couple of degrees. Another really good pass, fastest of the DR10M so far. The mile per hour was off because I seem to have a little issue with the body on the top end. I'm not sure if you could see that, but there was some shaking going on up there. Looking at the data, the 70% stage was kind of quick, so I'm gonna adjust that a bit. And the 60% stage has a little bit of voltage rising again there, so I'm gonna adjust that, adding a little more turbo, and I'm gonna make another pass. Another steady improvement, another best pass for the car. The entire pass looks pretty good. I could shorten up the stages a little bit or add some more boost, but I stripped the spur gear on that pass, and although I do have another 90-tooth gear, I also picked up an 84-tooth. So I'm gonna try that with this exact same tune, see if we get a little more top end speed. And after a couple of iffy passes, I started to feel a little bit of a drizzle coming down, and the UPS truck was in the street trying to stay on my side of the street. The pressure was on, and for the final pass of the day, I ran a new personal best, 2.3 flat at 66 miles an hour. So now I haven't actually looked at the data yet. We're gonna do that together right now. We're gonna go into the DRK as well as the GNSS app and look at that data together and see what I'm seeing there. So going over that data now, I can see that first stage looked really good. There wasn't a whole lot of voltage gain. I'm not seeing no 9 point something volts again, so I'm happy with that first stage. Second stage also looking good, no spinning in there, RPM staying roughly gaining all the way through. Third stage at 60% looking good. Fourth stage as well. It looks like I had a little bit of a pedal here. That's roughly right before the 1 second mark, so about halfway through the pass it looks like I might have had a little bit of a pedal job here because that should be reading closer to 90% and I'm at 60%. But even with pedaling, I'm still running 66 miles an hour, 2.3 seconds. So that could be an even better pass. Looking at the GNSS spreadsheet, I have a pretty consistent gain in mile an hour. 7 miles an hour at 0.2 seconds is basically as fast as I've been so far. I think I've seen 9 mile an hour in one pass, but that was a pretty hard pass, a bad pass actually. A car spun. I can kind of see where that pedal was right here, where I only gained 6 miles an hour. And then the car kind of settling out at the end. You can see my acceleration, the G-force isn't as high as before. Max of 1.63, where I've seen 2.2 or so before. So I think if we can get that back up, we'll see even better times. One thing I'm noticing, if I actually go through the time from the beginning of the pass to the end, I'm not at quite 2.3 seconds. I believe that's where we're seeing the GNSS be that 0.2 seconds slower like people are saying. So technically this should be a 2.1 pass, I believe. Even though if not, if I lifted early, then that definitely tells you we have some more to go. RPMs on the top end are looking really good, 78,000 RPMs. I do want to get the RPMs up a little higher when it hits 100% before that turbo comes in. We're going to get there though. We're going to play around with those stages a little bit. Only one time the voltage dropped kind of drastically there to 6.6 volts. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with that pass. Pretty happy with today's progress. So to wrap up, you saw what I did today. I made basically a test pass, a baseline pass, make the car go down just to get some data, and then I'm using that data to tune. Watching the RPMs, the speed and the incremental times, the voltage drop, or raise for that matter. All of that to help me see where I could put in more power or where I need to take out a little power. Gearing wise, I know most of you know I've been running 20 to 21 tooth on the pinion and 90 tooth on the spur. Today I wanted to try out that 84. I wanted to see just a little more speed on the top end, and that paid off. My motor temps didn't get too hot or anything like that. It didn't hurt my acceleration early in the run at all, so I'm gonna leave that 84 tooth in there for now. I'm liking that. I'm thinking that'll help us get to 70 miles an hour soon. Hopefully next time out we'll be able to hit 70. I think I know what to do to get there. I have to give the credit to you guys. I've gotten a whole bunch of help since I started with RC drag racing over 2 years ago now, I believe. You guys have helped me figure out this car, helped me figure out tuning, helped me run through the numbers, and I just wanted to kind of pass that information along. If you know any more than me, if there's something I missed in this video, something I left out that you think should be covered, make sure to leave it down in the comments below and we'll cover it in another video. As I always say, y'all probably getting tired of hearing me say it, but I really enjoy helping other people in the hobby, helping spread the information that I know and the things that I've learned. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can see some more passes with this car. You can see some more progress with this thing. Hopefully 70 miles an hour soon, maybe in the next video. Who knows? You gotta subscribe to see. As always, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks again for watching. Peace.